our special guest. The Director General and HOD is present. All guests present in the gallery. Ladies and gentlemen, Dimachero, Abushen, Silochi, Tovela. Good morning. Huyemore. Honorable Speaker, just this past Friday, when President Cyril Ramaphosa was addressing the G20 Global Citizens Scaling Up Renewables in Africa, he reminded us of something very fundamental. And as we gather here for the purpose of the adjustment budget, we shall table accordingly. I want us to borrow from his wisdom, as I quote, "The real test lie in implementation," close quote. These words carry weight for every sphere of government, and they speak directly to the purpose of this adjustment budget. We're not here to repeat plans. We're here to confirm that our commitments are backed by practical steps, sound allocations, and a clear sense of duty to the people of Limpopo. This adjustment budget allows us to correct course where pressure has built in the process, strengthen programs that show progress, and redirect resources to areas where the need is most visible. This is because our work should not be shaped by promises, but by action, able leadership, and results should be visible in our communities all over the province, which is what our Premier always emphasizes. Honorable Speaker, it is in this spirit that I tabled before this August House the following documents. 1, the Limpopo Adjustment Appropriation Bill 2025. 2, the Midterm Provincial Budget Overview 2025. 3, Adjustment Estimates of Provincial Revenue and Expenditure 2025. 4, this adjustment budget speech, and together with other relevant gazettes. Honorable Speaker, allow me to delve briefly into the economic outlook. The 2025 medium-term provincial budget overview is presented against a backdrop of persistent global uncertainties, yet it is built on foundation of rigorous resilience and measured hope here in our province. We acknowledge the risks posed by global integration and shocks, particularly the US import tariffs, which necessitate a proactive strategy to explore international and regional markets for our products. As it was indicated by the Minister of Finance, Honorable Mr. Enoch Godongwana, recently during his medium-term budget policy statement, that while the national economy experienced modest growth of 0.6% in 2024, we are strongly encouraged by the fact that our government is on track to meet its fiscal targets and is advancing economic reform, as evidenced by progress of phase 2 of Operation Vulindlela, which has delivered an uninterrupted electricity supply. In the same breath, National Treasury projects the national growth to double to 1.2% in 2025. And additional to that, the consensus on the 3% inflation target will be a game changer. This strengthens the path to reducing the cost of living and sets the stage for interest rate cuts, as happened in the last week. That will directly support household spending, boost business investment, and drive long-term job creation. Now there is trouble here. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, this has taken long before I came here anyway. And I believe it's the last time this happened, Honorable Speaker. So, honorable members, our province is not just surviving the economic uncertainty, but we are leading the growth curve in the country at the moment. That is not negotiable. It is what is happening. This success is not theoretical. The provincial unemployment rate has declined significantly by 5.2% points in the third quarter, from 35% to 29.8%. The decline is proof that our economic efforts are translating into jobs for our people. We also recorded the highest rise in our contribution to the gross domestic product by 0.9% compared to the national average of 0.5%. We see a direct correlation in the labor market. And to sustain this positive momentum and transform it into lasting prosperity, we have confidence in the Limpopo Development Plan 2025-2030. It is a blueprint that embodies our commitment to transforming our provincial economy, addressing pressing social issues, and uplifting the lives of all our residents. Alongside, we have established a consistent LDP funding framework that guides how public resources are to be allocated and how private investment is attracted. Its purpose is to ensure that our limited financial resources are used strategically, efficiently, and effectively to drive inclusive growth, reduce poverty, and strengthen institutional capacity through the province. I'll now turn to the provincial owned revenue, Honorable Speaker and fellow members. Our commitment to financial sustainability is clearly reflected in the outstanding results of our provincial revenue enhancement and retention strategy. Our provincial owned revenue has increased considerably from the original target of 2 billion to 2.3 billion for the current year. This represents a substantial upward adjustment of 258.2 million or 12.8%. This successful performance gives us additional resources to address the needs of our communities. The increase in the province's own revenue is a result of enhanced collection and financial discipline across several key departments. This includes improved earning of interest generated from favorable bank balances, better revenue through enhanced collection of motor vehicle licensing and registration fees, and more effectively recovery of traffic fines and penalties, among others. Lastly, implementing improved collection of patient fees and generating once-off income from the successful auction sales of obsolete assets. Our Premier has consistently emphasized the need to fast-track the completion of infrastructure that are already under construction in the province and to be prompt in our processes from planning to implementation of new projects. This is because, in our belief, infrastructure remains a key driver of our country's economic recovery and growth, and it was also emphasized in the 2025 MTBPS. Limpopo Province is implementing structural reforms in infrastructure planning, delivery, and oversight through the institutionalization of the Infrastructure Delivery Management System, the IDMS, and stronger interdepartmental partnerships. Despite progress, media reviews revealed challenges such as procurement delays, which is a source for concern, and contractor underperformance. This is taking a toll on us, moving very progressively to address the various aspects that we need to do. To address this, our adjustment budget introduces measures to boost delivery capacity, including reallocation of high-performing projects, improved planning processes, and support for early-stage project preparation. Following rigorous departmental engagements, the provincial infrastructure allocation for 2025-26 has been revised upward by 5.4% to 8.8 billion, just for infrastructure, reflecting strengthened project readiness and accelerated implementation. And the breakdown of the infrastructure allocation is as follows. I will start with core social services. In the Department of Health, we are allocating one of the most substantial adjustments with its budget increasing from 907 million to 1.0 billion. I'm talking about infrastructure only. This is primarily driven by a major increase in funding for maintenance and repairs and for upgrades when necessary. This is crucial investment to ensure our health facilities are functional, safe, and able to deliver quality care. The Department of Education sees its infrastructure budget increased by 44.9 million to a revised allocation of 1.7 billion, ensuring that the learning environment for our children is continually improved. COGSTA, the budget increases from 1.1 billion to 1.3 billion. This significant augmentation includes an additional 200 million for human settlement delivery and 6.8 million for construction of traditional council offices. The department also receives 1.1 million conditional grants rollover for both informal settlement partnership grant and human settlement development grant. Boosting infrastructure for economic resilience is one aspect that we want to focus on. And to boost economic stability and connectivity, we're making targeted investments in the infrastructure network. The consolidated infrastructure budget, therefore, for public works, roads, and infrastructure rises from 3.9 billion to 4.0 billion. This is a critical investment to safeguard provincial assets with a substantial 270 million earmarked for storm damage rehabilitation projects and 123 million for ongoing provincial road upgrades. These funds are essential to stabilize our provincial road network and prevent further costly deterioration. Meanwhile, the budget for agriculture and rural development increases from 210 million 257 to 257 million, mainly through additional allocations for the maintenance of essential agricultural infrastructure, supporting our rural economy and food security. For sports and culture, Honorable Masego, the department's budget is unfortunately being revised downward from 245.9 to 142.1 million. You'll agree with me. You know very well. This is necessary adjustment due to the slow progress, and I repeat, due to the slow progress on the Limpopo Provincial Theatre, which has only reached 52% completion. So crucially, an amount of 10 million has been allocated to complete the construction of libraries, redirecting resources to projects that can be completed efficiently and serve the public immediately. So, honorable members, fiscal discipline requires us to address underperformance and ensure every rand delivers maximum value. We were speaking between ourselves and the team that we'll start to invoke that unwanted section in the PFMA in future for withholding in events where we realize there is not much progress. It doesn't have to be if we are to do what we are supposed to do. Honorable Speaker, the provincial treasury is committed to implementing National Treasury's budget reform initiatives of what we call targeted and responsible savings, the TARS. This framework emphasizes the careful reprioritization of resources, cost containment, and the avoidance of wasteful expenditure, while still maintaining the flexibility to respond to emerging priorities and socioeconomic challenges. Not deliberate savings, but targeted and responsible, focusing mainly on those things that can give immediate impact. To support the implementation of TARS budget reforms, the provincial treasury will rigorously enforce the use of the program assessment metrics tool, also introduced by the National Treasury. We're so privileged. National Treasury has also brought in some of the officials from National Treasury to show oneness between the two. They are with us, those who are responsible for budget for Limpopo. So they're in this house, and we really want to welcome them. this tool empowers departments to systematically assess their programs and sub-programs, fostering evidence-based decision-making rooted in clear criteria such as legal relevance, strategic alignment, performance, efficiency, and sustainability. As we prepare for the next year, for the 2026 MTF, this PEM tool will play a central role in guiding transparent and effective budget forward planning, so that in the next few years, we should be not encountering unforeseen things. We should be forward-looking in all what we do. Of importance, it is a supportive measure designed to strengthen our approach to program planning, performance management, and long-term fiscal sustainability, ensuring that every department is accountable for delivering results and achieving our developmental objectives. Honorable Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that the total provincial receipts during this adjustment period increased by 2.0 billion, ensuring that critical sectors receive the resources needed to drive progress and improve the quality of life for all Limpopo residents. This increase comprises of several key components, and I'll list them just for your information here. Equitable share allocation from National Treasury, and as I've just indicated that we have officials from National Treasury. During this adjustment, there was this additional allocation of 1.0 billion rand. Of this amount, 701.5 is allocated to the Department of Health, with 362.7 dedicated to the Department of Education. These additional funds were made available immediately to the province by the Minister of Finance through Gazette number 53574 of 2025 in compliance with Section 6, subsection 4 of the Division of Revenue Act. So we also have the equitable share rollover of 490.3 from the 2024-25 financial year to the 2025-26 financial year. This includes the rollover of 49.2 million, which is a retention and revenue for the provincial legislature. We also have conditional grants increasing by 712.9 million. This includes rollovers from the previous financial year of 62.2 million, additional 69.0 million for PEPFAR initiatives in health, as well as 306.7 million rand to expand early childhood development in education. So the additional funds for HIV/AIDS in health and ECD in education were made available to the province by the Minister of Finance through Gazette number 53437 and Gazette 53602 of 2025 respectively. Included in the 712 million conditional grant increase is 275 million for disaster relief made available for Department of Education, Department of Public Works, Roads and Infrastructure, and Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. This is, if you break it down, 140 for education, 140 million for education, 110 for public works, and 25 million for agriculture. The funds are made available for the reconstruction and rehabilitation of provincial infrastructure damaged by rainfall, flooding, thunderstorms, and strong winds that occurred between April 2024 and June 2025. As indicated earlier, and I must repeat that our own revenue also has increased to 2.2 billion from the initial target of 2.0 billion. I therefore present the adjustment budget votes 2025-26 as follows. I'll focus only on the adjustments and not the compound figure as we normally will do in the main budget. Vote 1 is Office of the Premier. we adjust downwards by 33.3 million. So, don't ask me why. Vote 2, provincial legislature, we adjust upward by 89 million. I thought the members will be happy about this one. It is increasing. The adjustment primarily addresses budgetary pressures to ensure the institution continues to effectively exercise its oversight mandate for the remainder of the financial year, and therefore the members should be able to execute them, at least. So, I will then move over to the conditional grant allocations, or rather, after the legislature, I'm just indicating all matters that relates to the legislature and how it has been done. So, vote 3, which is education, there's an upward adjustment, fortunately, 843.8 million. So it is taking the overall budget of 42 billion to 43. The department receives equitable share and conditional grants additions, for the appointment of teachers across all the districts, and to cover spending pressures on scholar transport to support eligible learners, and for special school buses, as well as learner admission system and all other related matters. So vote for agriculture and rural development, a small upward adjustment of 49.0 million. And this, I believe, will go a long way. This is for adjustment. Otherwise, what more can we do if we're not doing the least that we can do? And vote 5, provincial treasury. Then we can listen attentively. There is a downward adjustment of 45 million rand. Why? This should be reallocated for infrastructure development in the province. So, LEDET, economic development, environment and tourism, downward adjustment of 186.6 million. All right? We have withheld some earmarked funds, especially for the Musina Makadwe Special Zone, Economic Zone, and Fetahomo Tubatsi Industrial Capital Projects, back to the Provincial Revenue Fund for future use. So this reduction is more, but it was offset by additional allocations, including equitable share rollovers of 19.2 million and 20.9 million, respectively, to address pressures related to contractual obligations and other related matters. So there is a give and take, which results in a net value. The vote 7, which is health, it is an upward adjustment. It's also a net value, 521.7 million, which actually takes the appropriation, the original appropriation of 26.0 billion to 26.5. So a total of 921 million equitable share is made available through additional funding comprising, among others, 218.6 million for the appointment of doctors and healthcare professionals, 416.6 million to cover spending pressures on goods and services, including procurement of medicine and medical supplies, among others. Vote 8 is transport and safety. There is a downward adjustment here by 112.4 million. This is due to the reprioritization of funds, not a bad thing, that were previously allocated to projects that did not progress as expected. Included here is the 38 million that was initially allocated to the Toando Intermodal Transport Facility, and the 80 million rand that was earmarked for feasibility studies for the high-speed rail project, which we are putting aside and reallocate money where it can best be used now. So it's not just a bad thing to do. There are good things as well in it. So with receipt of additional allocations for equitable share amounting to 86.8 million, we are prioritizing, among others, the acquisition of instrument landing system, because we want aeroplanes to land here. It's among the money that we are giving back. There should be no excuses. We need to see the implementation of those infrastructure projects, the K53 Seshego, Mambukale, Wetbridge, and Traffic College, something there of the tune of 1.5 million, and other contractual obligations for 21.3 million. Vote 9, Public Works, Roads and Infrastructure. There is an upward adjustment to the amount of 316.6 million. This adjustment reflects an equitable share. Well, there was a surrender on this of 234 and additional funding. You see, where you give and take, there results a net, and there's an, net effect of everything that happens. By the way, this can only happen during an adjustment, because in an adjustment by its nature suggests that where we need to take in order to do better, we take. And that's what we actually do. And that's what fiscal management means. So the details about it, which may be expanded upon, is we want to ensure that there is reconstruction and rehabilitation of the provincial road infrastructure, especially damaged by rainfall, flooding, as I said earlier. The road infrastructure projects that needs to be implemented by Road Agency Limpopo, we have given this 123.7 million. And additional fund for the procurement of an office building in Polokwane, totaling 69 million. The most important here is the 20 million for settlement of rates, Honorable Makamu, and taxes to municipalities. We cannot, Honorable Rachweni, allow a situation where government is owing this. And our plea is that it be done as soon as possible, so that this money should be taken to where it matters most. We still want to see the Lidet building in State Street refurbished, and we would like to see the replacement of furniture. I'm tired of a camp chair, of furniture in Parliamentary Village. We can't leave that one out. Sports, arts, and culture is vote 10. There is a downward adjustment of 125 million, and I've indicated earlier, I don't have to repeat, otherwise my friend will continue to be angry with me. He always threatens me because he sits next to me. And then vote 11, Cogstar, there is an upward adjustment of 267 million. So this includes 200 million rand for human settlement delivery, 6.8 million for construction of traditional council offices, 4.4 million for traditional leaders' vehicles, and 33 million for municipal finance intervention with the invocation of section 139, subsection 5, not 1, 2, 3. That must be understood as such. this intervention is necessary if we are to realize progress in that regard. So there is also a conditional grant rollover from informal settlement partnership grant and human settlement development grant. Vote 12 is our last vote, Honorable Radzilan. We leave it as it is. Neither upward nor downwards. Unfortunately, the allocation remains unchanged. That does not mean anything, but we also want to appreciate that you have to address certain key priorities, especially this one that is close to the heart of even the leadership, I believe, of the financial management graduates, who are primarily intended for non-profit organizations delivering social services to strengthen compliance. It's creation of jobs in a way, but addressing matters that are of necessity on the other hand. This is exactly what the adjustment was all about. And I will just do a synoptic overview in short here. Honorable members, our adjustment budget for this current year demonstrates our commitment to prudent financial management and strategic investment in critical service delivery areas. If you will check, we are directing our resources more on the infrastructure and other things and less on compensation of employees. Not that we don't want people, but that we have to strike a balance between the two. The adjustment is not merely a technical exercise. It represents a recalibration of our resources to better address the immediate needs of our province and secure long-term stability and sustainability. The core of this adjustment centers on an overall increase in the provincial adjustment allocations from the 88.9 billion we tabled in May to now 90.5 billion. So our budget is no longer the 88.9, it is the 90 billion. The 1.5 billion growth is financed through a strategic combination of rollovers, own revenue, and targeted additional funding, as alluded to earlier. Honorable members, I will now turn to the projections for the 2026 MTEF budget that will be elaborated upon when we table it next year. Just a glimpse of a picture of what you should anticipate. The 2026 MTEF marks a critical phase in our fiscal journey, with our provincial equitable share allocation reflecting some adjustments due to there is a change in the data updates. The mid-year population estimates shows that we are going down, right? And the downward inflation adjustments. So congruent to inflation, which was a little bit here, and it's going down as you see, although not that much.